Greetings, Clausewitz here. So, I recently watched a video from Metatron. Here's his channel. It's a cool guy. He does a lot of things. Actually, I don't agree with so many things of his historical videos, but that's important. But basically, it's a smart and cool guy. Check out his channel. But the thing is, I watched his video like Samurai versus Knight, which is this old debate. So, like since the internet began, we have this debate about the knight comparison with the samurai and which is better, and it's all interlinked with this whole idea or this whole thing about the katana and which is better, katana, longsword, and blah blah blah. So I have two problems with this. First is a minor problem. This minor problem is just like when people compare, they don't define beforehand, or they really scratch the surface, really say, oh, let us compare samurai and knight. And samurai, here they had katana, they had naginata, they had bows, the yumi, and yeah, that's it. And you compare the knight, oh, he had lances, he had crossbows, which often would compared here, and the longsword, and had warhammers. And let us look, because samurai and even like they had so many different weapons, different armor, and couldn't even afford everything. Not everybody could afford everything. So basically, why, when they compare two systems, why they just pick some things out of it? So this is the first problem. But my second problem is really the major one, really the big problem I have, because what do we define as samurai and what do we define as knight? Because normally we apply these terms on more society-based things, or more on interlocked with society, so military with the society, like knights, basically the European upper class, the wealthy nobles, which also serve on the battlefield as heavily armed cavalry, infantry, and so. And the samurai, like as also the upper ruling class, which would be like the warriors or of the lords and everything, but actually not the noble, not the landowners. This is or just the warriors of Japan, the non-levy warriors, which could be, this is actually a better description. So, and we have like many hundreds of years for both sides of history. And now I say, which point we choose from. Because if we just choose the most iconic one, then it's like, why? And actually, if we choose the iconic samurai time, like the late Sengoku Jidai, like games like Shonen 2 show this, time chooses frame, then we actually should give samurai firearms, actually, which is a big advantage against knights. We often choose the knight out of his like military prime, like the 15th century, where we had full plate armor and advanced longsword techniques and pole axes, war hammers, maces and different kinds, and everything like this. But I actually could like to give the samurai a disadvantage, just say, oh, samurai from 100 years before. Which also looks like the later one, very iconic, but don't have firearms. And yeah, this is, how do we choose this? Because even society term knight is very different in very different European countries and doing different times. Basically, a knight in England was something different than a knight in France or a knight in Germany or in German lands, like in Holy Roman Empire, I mean. So, or in Poland or in Italy. And even the Renaissance started earlier in Italy. So basically their knights were basically gone earlier than in France or England. And in England, knight was just like the lowest not landowner title, I think. Or was the lowest landowner title, I always confuse this two, but it was a low title for nobles. And on the battlefield, you would call like nobles with weapons, or basically the heavy armed guys, men at arms. And you would call like, then you have like a longbowman and you have like a billman, and this is basically it. But this is very different to France. This is very different to Germany, where you had Waffenknechte, Edelknechte and Ritter. Ritter is knights and describes like the highest, the elite of the army and of society actually. You had Edelknechte, which would be every non-knight nobles, so basically which would be not so wealthy, maybe couldn't afford even horses. and you had Waffenknechte would be just like the non-nobles, which have to serve in war. And the words, by the way, actually Waffenknecht really is, Knecht is the word like for servant. This is a term always shows up in this medieval German language, and Waffe or Waffen is just weapon. And so like a servant with weapons, a weapon servant, somebody who has to serve in war. And Edelknecht is just like Knecht, we have already Knecht here, and Edel, which means like noble. So basically a noble who has to have to serve in the army. and therefore also to distinguish, do we just compare the purely elite? But the elite in England would be mostly on foot, but the elite in France would be mostly on horse. And actually this was a common tactic in France for knights to just only fought on horseback. So, like I said, how do we compare this? How do we choose? It could get even further back. So like the equites in Roman military were a cavalryman, which would be the noble, like the right under the Senate class, where the equites class, which would be like the second wealthiest or second powerfulest class of citizen in Rome, and they would be, because of their wealth, had to fight as cavalrymen because they could afford horses. This is basically a knight, and actually the term equites means something like cavalryman, like rider, which is also like chevalier or ritter and everything, but not knight in England. But you see, this is like, what do we talk about? And I could do this for samurai even also. I could like say, oh, samurai, like the ruling warrior class, upper class, and which have to take up arms. But I could also describe the 19th century samurai, which had, before the Tenno, gain his power back, and which actually would fight or equip himself with, this time, modern firearms. Same problem, because I could take this modern firearm samurai and compare them with like 14th century knight, and everybody's dead. But you know what I mean. This is like, this is the big problem. This is why I have a problem with this. It's not centralized. The whole thing in history is not centralized. Knight, samurai, and everything. In the Edo time it was more centralized, and later on it was also more centralized in Europe, but actually after the knights, after this is all over. So this is so hard comparison. You have to consider so many things in, so many different weapons, and to really determine and argue why you choose this and this, why you like choose only the 15th century knight and not the 12th century knight. And yeah, this is what I mean. It doesn't work. It doesn't work actually. And it angers me a little bit, because why do not people look for this, or they are so eager to compare icons, really the iconic samurai warrior and the honorful and everything, and the iconic knight in shining armor. And yeah, it's just as stupid to say, oh, the katana was the best thing, as to say, no, knights were just the best thing and samurai not. Because, and actually, yeah, you can't determine which is better, which has more effectiveness, more likelihood of success and everything. But therefore you have to set parameters, you have to set good premises, you have to to prove that this is a premise you can use. Because to use a loose definition, this is really like I would say, oh, I compare a fighting or armed citizen of Germany with an armed citizen of US. Because actually, this definition could actually mean everything. It could mean a commando unit, it could mean just a crazy guy with a gun. Because citizens, we all are citizens. And armed is just when you take up a weapon. So this is the same thing when you say samurai versus knight. It's the same thing to say armed citizen of Germany or of France or of England, of UK, against an armed citizen of Japan, of US. It's too loose, and yeah, you have to set parameters like, oh, I just talk about people who are enlisted in the army. But actually this we can define. We have an official army, which is like defined from the country why it is an army. We don't have this so much in the past, because this was many often very different, even inside of a kingdom. So yeah, hopefully see you soon.